Welcome viewers to our class for today. Let's take part 7 of Living Things. So it has been a series, part 1, part 2, part 3 till this 7th episode we are taking. And still on Living Things, we are going to discuss classifying growth and development, either temporary or permanent. If you love what we do here, subscribe to the channel. If you have other people you want to invite to the channel, please let them come in. Let's make this community great. As always, I love you, my community, and welcome to the class. We have seen the developmental changes from infancy down to adulthood. And we have seen the changes that goes on with an adolescent. We've equally seen different ages that developmental processes takes place in an infant. Today, we're going to look at these temporary changes and permanent changes. Why do they occur? What are the factors that make these changes happen? But now, let's look at the temporary changes and let's look at the permanent changes. Temporary changes in humans are those changes that occur over a time and phase out with time. They happen, and as the days and years go by, they gradually phase out. Let's take, for example, a child that moves from infancy to adolescence start developing pimples in the face. Now, when the child grows from adolescent and enter adulting proper, these changes, these futures, these developmental changes gradually phase out. The child no longer have those problem of serious pimples or acne in his or her face. At the end of the day, they all clear up. These are temporary changes because they happen. Now, a child that is growing start bedwetting. For that period, the child bedwets over a period of time. As the child grows up into adulthood, the year goes by, the child gradually starts controlling him or herself. This child starts mastering his or her body, and the child stops bedwetting. These are temporary changes because they happen for a reason. The age they find themselves, the hormones that the body or glands that the body have secreted, different changes, different environmental factors that have happened in the life of the child makes these changes comes to the child. That as the year go by, they gradually phase out. You see it? At adolescence, the child is attracted to the opposite sex the more. The child wants freedom the more. But as time goes by, the child knows that these things doesn't count anymore. The child knows that he or she have to face life on his own. He or she is accountable to himself. So those changes that comes with adolescence that makes the child to feel awkward then, those changes that comes with time that makes the child to feel that there is something happening to him or her gradually phase out. And he start being responsible to him or herself. At this stage, those temporary changes are all gone. So that's why we say in development, in human development, there are changes that are temporary. The pimple is temporary, the bedwetting is temporary, the independency kind of life, drawn to peers, follow the crowd, they are all gone. The child wants to do things the right way now because the child has grown into adults. So these are temporary changes. It says naturally disappears after some times. I give you examples of pimples in adolescents, bedwetting, and other things you can think of that gradually phase out after that particular period of time. Now, what are permanent changes? These are, for example, in the developmental stages of a child, the child grows taller, grows more intense bone mass. The child starts developing breasts, hips, hair, the jaw hair, pubic hair, armpit hair. These things are permanent because the child is going to hold on to those changes till death. And so the child has transited from one stage to another. The head is not going to decrease. Then another thing that can change is the body weight. A time comes, because of exercise, because of food intake, if the child is if the individual is maltreated, or now the child have left childhood, if the child is maltreated, it tells on his weight. But if the child is healthy, his weight is stable. But if the child looks is obese or overweight, the individual work on herself or himself and then loses weight. These changes are temporary because they are things you can work on, and then they go off or they are controlled. That's like height. They remain there. Hairs in the body, whichever part, remains there. Breasts that you develop remains there. The deep voice a boy develops, it remains there. They don't go out. They are permanent changes. Like I said, these are changes that remains for life and are not reversible. Features that associate with each of the human development, like I told you, your height. The developmental features that comes from adolescents to adults. Development of breasts, the deep voice, the broad shoulder, the hip bones. These will not go off because they are permanent changes. So you see, in developmental stages, there are things that are permanent, there are things that are temporary, that can wear off over a period of time. Now, what are those factors that affect this development? What are those factors that affect development, either permanent or temporal? We have food. Now let's look at food. Food makes, if you don't control your food intake, you will either grow overweight, obese, or underweight. Some persons have excess to eat, some have very little. Those who have very little to eat may be malnutrited. Those who have many to eat and have variety to eat may overeat and become overweight and obese. So factors that affect our temporary changes can be food. Now, we'll talk about hereditary. Hereditary comes in forms of both temporal and permanent. Let's see that in your family, people are always obese. You can be in charge of your life and then take control of your health and tell yourself, I will not be obese. Now, at a time you become obese, temporal, and then later you said, no, I am going to reduce my weight, and gradually the weight fades off, and then you manage a minimum weight. Hereditary. Other things that can be permanent is height. Hereditary, you can inherit that body size or body height from your parents. If both your parents and your generation are tall people, invariably you are going to come up to be very tall person. So hereditary plays a part in developmental changes, either temporary or permanent of an individual. Then we see exercise and rest. Those who exercise better live healthier. And if there is like a hereditary kind of disease that comes to a family and you are able to tackle it, it's going to help, because what you take, the food you take, the lifestyle you manage will help you to control it. Even if it is hereditary, you are going to reduce it to its minimum. Another thing that can help is the gland in the body. Another thing that determines our temporary development or permanent development is the gland. The kind of gland the body secretes, the hormones we develop, can affect our developmental stages either temporary or permanent. And then the love and care you get from people around you, from your friends and family, matters a lot. Some people are emotionally unstable because they have not experienced love. They lack care and love. Maybe the death of a family member or the death of their parents have dragged them into being depressed, and they lack love. They don't have people to show them care and love, and it affects them negatively. But you grow up in a family where everybody showers you with love and care, and you see yourself in an atmosphere of peace. You see the inner contentment, the emotional stability, it's more there. Then we look at diseases. Like we talk about hereditary, there are some persons that have hereditary kind of disease. You see some family cancer run in the family, some epilepsy, you name it, diabetes. Now you look at your family lineage, some family have this thing running in their family. You can either leave it to be permanent in your lineage, or you let it be temporary by changing your lifestyle, changing your food, taking control of your health, starting early to put things in control, putting in control measures that will help you in the future. Things that helps you in the future to live a better life. That way you can make that hereditary possession temporary, because you've cut yourself out of all of that, all of the hereditary lineage, all of the problem that comes from your family lineage as it regards disease condition. You can change things for yourself. You are the architect of your life. So you alone can change things, change the narratives, live a more healthier life, choose good lifestyle, and make good decisions in life that will not affect you. So these are factors that affect both our temporary changes and our permanent changes. The kind of food we eat, hereditary, exercise and rest, the gland, love and care, then disease conditions. All of these affect our developmental changes, whether permanent or temporal. It is nice having you on Class Online School. I am always happy you drop by on the channel to look at what we have here. I appreciate you all, and you are my community, and I love you all. Thanks for dropping by on the class. Please, if you've not subscribed and you are on this channel, if you love what we do, subscribe, hit the subscribe button so that you'll be notified anytime we upload a new video. We bring out new content every week. We upload videos sometimes 3 times, 4 times, 5 times a week. So subscribe so that you can get notification. If you like what we do, give us a thumbs up, and then invite more persons you think can benefit from what we do here. As always, I love you all, and I love to be here. Until I come your way next class, thank you for being here.